Hey folks, Robert Quinn here, your LinkedIn semiconductor industry content provider. I am excited to have Moov's very own David Duke join us today. Now, usually we don't have internal guests on the show, but David Duke is truly an industry expert. David has over 25 years of experience in the industry with leading OEMs like KLA Tencor, then focusing on strategic acquisition and disposition for companies like GE Capital and Global Foundries. David now runs Moov's Enterprise Partnerships division, where he helps leading manufacturers maximize the value of their equipment assets. David, tell us a little bit more about who you are and why you joined Moov.
Thanks, Bob. Moov is the industry's biggest global marketplace for used equipment. Our technology is easily the most advanced I've seen, and it provides a great experience for our customers who are looking to buy or sell equipment. So I see this as an opportunity to combine what I've learned in the industry and help our customers save millions on their capital spend.
David, I completely agree with you. And with all my years in the industry, I can clearly see how Moov's platform is an incredibly useful tool for those in the market. So David, our topic today is equipment lifecycle management. David, can you explain what is an equipment lifecycle management program?
Yeah, well, certainly it's a mouthful, but equipment lifecycle management really means getting the maximum value out of your equipment at every step in its life cycle, from procurement to utilization and disposition. So many fabs treat these stages as separate, but what really unites them are the ways that the secondary market can be used as a resource to be far more efficient than they could be otherwise.
And David, let me ask, why talk about semiconductor market surplus equipment now?
Well, at Moov, we're seeing more and more manufacturers turn to the secondary market to expand capacity fast and recoup value on their unused assets. In fact, we did a survey of about 60 manufacturers, and 43% of them said they plan to increase their spending on used equipment in the future. 56% of them also indicated that they plan to engage or are engaging in fab-to-fab sales. So now we're moving from a situation where knowledge of the secondary market is a nice to have to a place where this knowledge is critical to manufacturers who want to keep up with the competition. This is also becoming critical now that we see supply sources shifting and global production becoming less predictable. So the opportunities to ramp capacity are emerging faster, and so are the opportunities really to scale down and recoup value. Of course, everything is moving faster these days, which is why you need technology to augment your procurement and disposition.
David, the secondary equipment market is so complex and critical to the industry. Let me ask you, what do manufacturers need to know about procuring used equipment?
Well, I'd like people to recognize that ramping with a majority of equipment from the used market is entirely possible if you have a good plan and the right strategy. And we can certainly help with that. But used equipment isn't always available straight off the shelf, which is why we're here to help you locate the equipment that you're looking for.
David, I've also heard you talk about how the resale market can help manufacturers maximize equipment uptime. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's pretty simple, really. You can buy used equipment for parts, backup, or redundancy at a fraction of new to make your line more reliable. This is especially compelling as you start to consider scenarios where we could have disruptions like we had during the pandemic.
So let me ask you, David, in terms of disposing of idle or unused equipment, what do manufacturers need to know?
Well, first, recognize that there's value, even if your fab considers the equipment to be fully depreciated. That value can go right back into your budget and eliminate the cost of storage. Second, overall prices on used equipment have gone up in the past few years as demand has increased. So keep up to date on what the market can offer for your inventory. And then lastly, have the right internal decision-making process for when a tool is retired. Does another fab need it? How do you know? Should you refurb, scrap, or resell? And we can help keep your team informed with our data so you can maximize value while minimizing risk.
And all of those are such critical aspects and so important when dealing with secondary equipment. David, with this, how does a manufacturer know they need an equipment lifecycle management program?
Well, Bob, it's pretty straightforward, really. Any company that wants to maximize ROI on their capital assets should have an equipment lifecycle management program.
And David, how does an equipment lifecycle management program impact procurement strategy?
Well, all companies, but especially those that are operating on current or mature modes or nodes, should always be looking for lower cost alternatives to new equipment and parts, whether it's to buy or to have as an option in the negotiation process. And even to go a little further, companies that can be more strategic should develop plans to invest countercyclically in acquisitions where capacity can come cheap and shorten the recovery phase during an upturn. This is a much larger topic that deserves more discussion, but anyone interested in brownfield acquisitions should reach out to us.
This is all such great information, David. Let me also ask you, what are some of the myths or misconceptions you've heard around the used semiconductor marketplace?
Well, what I'd like people to remember is that equipment is valuable until proven otherwise, even if the book value is zero or even if the equipment's in an unknown condition. I think that if you treat the equipment with a little care and do some market research, you'll be surprised with the high return on your effort.
David, I so often see how surprised people are when they realize the value of the equipment they are holding. David, what are some of the first steps towards creating an equipment lifecycle management program?
Well, number one is to set your priorities and go after low hanging fruit, whether that's warehouse cleanup or just looking at used equipment as a parts alternative. Second, I would set some rules and responsibilities and some process to establish momentum in the organization. And then last, I would establish executive support with some measurable targets so you can recognize and celebrate some of those early wins. They can really add up quickly.
I truly believe David is being a bit modest here. But David and his enterprise partnerships team at Moov have over $1 billion of experience with strategic procurement and disposition. So if it were me, my first step would be to call David. David, if fabs want to use data-driven approach, what are some of the metrics they can look at?
Well, there are too many to go through here, but you could look at percentage saved used versus new costs. This is the most basic one, but it's a good starting point if you're getting serious about acquiring from the used market. Another is equipment days idle. So equipment days idle can also tell you whether you're holding on to equipment that should be sold. So for example, if your average equipment idle time for any one type of equipment starts creeping up over 6 to 9 months, then you may have some equipment you can let go of. There's some other we could go into, but we should leave those from when we can get into more detail.
David, let me also ask you, why should companies partner with Moov?
Well, there's lots of reasons. Moov is the world's largest marketplace for used equipment. We have over 21,000 listings at $3.5 billion in value and a great team of global experts who can help navigate all of that opportunity. There's also our software, which lets you track your buying and selling and where you can look at demand and pricing trends immediately on our platform. Ultimately, I'd like to have our customers think of us as their go-to resource to help them get the most out of the secondary market.
Thanks, Dave. This has been a great talk, and I think there are a lot of people who will find this information super helpful. Anything else to add?
Oh, thanks, Bob. I hope it's been helpful. And if there's anyone interested in discussing best practices and surplus equipment, then they should feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help.
Thank you, David, and thank you to Moov Technologies for allowing us to host this Movers and Shakers show for our viewers today. I hope you have a great day, and thank you for being a part of our program.